For months, Washington and New Delhi have been broadcasting a very specific diplomatic message. Their deep, strategic friendship is stronger than ever. They are on the verge of finalizing a massive trade deal both sides eagerly anticipated. This optimism was cut short when, within the span of a single week, the United States military unexpectedly launched lethal Hellfire missile strikes against commercial vessels operating near the Persian Gulf. American missiles struck completely unarmed civilian oil tankers. In the wreckage of these targeted ships, 3 innocent Indian sailors were killed. This sudden eruption of violence immediately tests the reality of the U.S.-India alliance. It forces an uncomfortable question to the surface. Do lucrative economic ties outweigh the value of sovereign citizens' lives? The initial response from New Delhi was immediate. Indian leadership formally protested the lethal action taken against their civilians directly to U.S. officials. The United States issued a blunt rebuttal. Speaking on behalf of American foreign policy, Marco Rubio made it clear there would be no apology. Instead, he issued a strict warning. Violations of the U.S. blockade would be met with force. This uncompromising stance was echoed at the highest level. The U.S. president refused to take any accountability for the American missile strikes, choosing instead to shift the blame entirely onto Tehran for the vessel's presence. The refusal to offer even basic sympathy presents New Delhi with a harsh new reality. Washington demonstrates that it views Indian casualties as acceptable collateral damage in its Middle Eastern conflicts. To understand the context of these strikes, look at this map of the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. has established a functional maritime blockade here, acting as an economic vice designed to choke off Iranian ports. This image shows the specific hardware enforcing the blockade, a Hellfire drone missile. The world's most powerful navy fired these weapons at unarmored civilian targets. Bypassing maritime protocol, instead of intercepting and boarding the vessels to seize cargo, they chose the most lethal option. In the immediate aftermath, American forces abandoned the scene. It was left to the Omani military to conduct emergency rescue operations for the sailors who managed to survive the blast. The decision to bypass boarding protocols in favor of a missile strike functions as a calculated display of ruthless deterrence, one bought with civilian lives. This ruthless enforcement disappears when a different power enters these waters. Chinese commercial vessels routinely violate this exact blockade, purchasing Iranian oil and sailing through untouched. Washington ignores these breaches because it fears Beijing's military and economic retaliation. Tehran is now highlighting this hypocrisy. Iranian officials are publicly condemning the U.S. for lawless conduct, while offering the diplomatic sympathy to Indian families that Washington withheld. The contrast is clear. American naval enforcement isn't dictated by international law. It's driven by a calculation of which nations are perceived as too economically compromised to fight back. The deaths of these 3 sailors have created an internationalized diplomatic crisis. The entire global community is now watching to see how New Delhi reacts to the unprovoked killing of its citizens. The impending G7 summit serves as a critical deadline. Soon, the leaders of India and the United States will come face to face under the intense scrutiny of the international community. Adding to the pressure is the stance of summit host Emmanuel Macron. He is actively positioning France as a more stable security partner for nations weary of unpredictable American actions. This summit acts as a public stage for India. On this global platform, silence will be read as a concession, signaling that the lives of its citizens are a secondary concern. Indian leadership faces an immediate dilemma. They can remain quiet to protect the trade deal, or demand accountability and risk American economic retaliation. If India absorbs these deaths without protest, it risks signaling to every other global power that its citizens can be targeted with impunity as long as a trade deal is on the table. It is a path that would lead toward India being viewed as a soft state, one that prioritizes market access over its own people. The only way to prevent this perception is to raise the issue directly at the highest level. New Delhi must establish a non-negotiable boundary, making it clear that Indian lives cannot be treated as collateral damage. To be respected as a global power, a nation must demand mutual accountability, even from its closest allies. It is the only way to prove that sovereignty cannot be bought.